Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Be Advised. My name is Aleena Khan. I'm a fashion writing intern with Advisor. Today, I'm joined by the talented Kadeem Alphanso Fyffe. Kadeem is a fashion designer, author, and consultant. His works include Threading the Needle, a fashion designer's guide to successfully launching your first collection. He has been featured on an episode of Let's Wine About It, and he designs work under his label Kadeem Alphanso Fyffe New York. His designs have been featured in outlets like People, Cosmopolitan, and USA Today. Kadeem, thank you so much for joining me here on this podcast episode.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you today and connect with your audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to talk about design and, design is such a personal process. So what would you say is your sort of day-to-day inspiration?
Absolutely. So I believe that you can be inspired by anything, and I often am. So I don't have one area of inspiration that I would say is my like day to day, but each day I do try to actively get inspired by something else, something new, whether that be what's something that I've seen on social media, in written press, in nature, or just like mostly like my lived experiences. I typically am inspired by something that's going on in my life. It's usually my emotional response to something that has happened, whether that's happy or sad. I try to translate my lived experiences into art pieces or um, into a fashion sketch or illustration, and then that may end up, in a collection that ends up on a runway or online or sold to a customer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you play so many roles. You wear many different
Yeah.
hats. We talked about this. You say you're an artist first, a designer second, artist, designer, a consultant, writer, author. How do you approach balancing these roles, and do you find they inform, inspire, shape one another?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, we were chatting a bit earlier, and I definitely do consider myself an artist first and a designer second. And one thing that I also like to add is that I am a fierce advocate for my community always, in that I always try to make sure I use my platform responsibly to uplift marginalized communities, specifically the Black and LGBTQ plus communities, with a focus on LGBTQ plus youth. I feel like because I have this platform, it's important for me to make sure I'm giving back and make sure I'm championing those people who are most vulnerable. Um, and so my role as an artist, I would say, has always informed the work that I do as a designer. Like my formal training as an artist was what allowed me to then get into Parsons, where I studied fashion design, and then enter the fashion industry. And I think, or at least I feel, that my role as a fashion designer is to um, be inspired by what's going on in the world, take a look at society, and then hold a mirror up to society. So I think my role as an artist and a designer is to reflect society back to itself. And so again, kind of linking back to your inspiration question, I am inspired by what's going on and I react to it, and then I use my medium, which is fashion, which is clothing, to reflect my, to sort of give my reaction to it all back to society, and then I let them do whatever they need to do with it. But it ends up, fashion. The part that I love about fashion is that it then is like this tangible thing that someone can wear and use it to help inform society about who they are. Fashion can be this great tool for self-expression, and I love that um, I get to help people in that process.
Yeah, I mean, and I just love that like metaphor that you've painted, that holding a mirror essentially, or like, kind of mediating what's going on in society and what's going on in the world, culturally, all of that, and then, taking your design. And we even talked about how that in itself is maybe a concept or a approach that's kind of like, like I don't know, it's that what we should be doing?
Yeah.
And so I am curious, with you being in this field, are there any myths or like sort of misconceptions, do you think, that could be of good use to be dispelled right now, right here, right now?
About the fashion industry,
Yeah.
or well, I think one of the there are many. I think that, well, I would say maybe not myths, but I think that there are a lot of assumptions that people who are not in the industry may have, and some of them are completely spot on and fair. And then others, I think, are can be a little misguided. I think one that I guess is top of mind right now is that the work that we do is, shallow or superficial and somehow lacks meaning or impact. Because it's like, it's not just colors and fabrics and it's not just beautiful things. It is beautiful things and it is glamorous, but the glamour and beauty, at least in my experience, and I think, yeah, in my experience, the glamour and beauty also has meaning. Like there's a reason we pick certain colors. There's a reason we use certain fabrics. There's a reason that um, we use certain silhouettes or certain patterns during certain seasons or during certain cultural moments. I think that artists always react to what's going on, and so um, I would say that fashion is a lot more intentional than I think perhaps people who do not work in the industry or who just consume fashion may be aware of. Um, like every stitch is intentional. And while, yes, I would just say that we're much more intentional than I think maybe we get credit for. Trying to think about any other ones. Oh yeah. I think we were chatting about this earlier about how fashion sometimes there is this idea that we're not supposed to be political, and I think that fashion and art actually owe like it is very important that we are political and that we use our voices to speak truth to power, whether that be through our clothes or through our medium or like through our actual voices and our platforms on social media or in the press and so on. But I think that we're at an inflection point right now culturally where artists really need to use this time to create and to make sure their creative output is seen and consumed by society because that's what we're here. Our role is to reflect society back to itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I hope you don't mistake my silence as like, oh yeah, I agree with those
Yeah,
misconceptions.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
like yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
I'm listening intently for sure.
absolutely. Yeah.
And the fashion industry, the fashion scene is, evolving and going back to sort of identity and, you being a Black queer fashion designer artist. How do you see the role of Black designers shaping the future of fashion?
Well, we have always been at the forefront of culture, and
Absolutely.
I think that finally, certainly in the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, certainly post pandemic, we have been platformed in a way that I don't believe we were being platformed before, where our voices are being heard in the right rooms, and our perspectives are being heard and respected, and and our unique perspectives as Black and or queer people are being platformed in the same way as like some of our white counterparts. And I think that in the past that wasn't really the case. And I think fashion has made a lot of great strides, but we still have so much work to do. And that's because fashion is a business, it's an institution. And as most institutions go, at least here, um, we're just at a point where I think there's been a changing of the guard, and I really think that that just needs to continue. I mean, I just think that we have such a unique perspective, and that and we will continue to shape. We'll continue to shape culture, and I think. Oh yeah, I started my answer by saying that we have always done that. We just we haven't always received the credit. Like it used to be that really big luxury fashion houses would be inspired by like streetwear or something, and we know who wears streetwear.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then they would bring it to the runway, and then the press would be like, "Oh my goodness, Balenciaga events invent streetwear," and it's like, no, not to call them out specifically. That was truly me just saying a random luxury name, but it's that's like very rich to say that they invented the baggy style or the baggy look, or that Tommy Hilfiger is responsible for like hip hop streetwear. It's like, no, hip hop is responsible for hip hop streetwear.
Yeah.
And then Tommy and other brands like that co opted it, as they so often do. And then they get the credit and the money. And then our communities buy it back, but that's a whole other essay. But I think that we are often the people setting the tone for. We are the trendsetters always, and it usually starts locally, or starts one quote that I heard one time. This is not my original quote, but it was like it was in the hood before it was on the runway.
Hmm.
And that's certainly, been my experience in the industry, that I'll often see things come in, across my desk or in a design meeting, and people are, really, they're so elated that this new thing is happening. I'm like, literally used to wear this stuff in middle school, guys. You guys are so late, but that's just how it is. So it's important that we, as Black and or queer people, get to be in the rooms and be the decision makers and the trendsetters, and that's something that was really important to me when I got into the industry, that I was always going to make sure that my voice was heard at the right tables,
Hmm.
and in the right rooms, and that I always had a seat, so that we avoid any sort of cultural appropriation mishaps.
Yes, no, I can't help but think of TikTok and just so
Oh my
much cultural appropriation going on. It feels like every other week there's some sort of repackaged
God. Like,
white thing.
yeah, someone like rediscovering the fajita or the quesadilla. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, girl, it's a taco.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
no.
hate to break it to you, but those existed long before you figured it out, Amy.
No, literally, Amy, like,
I
please stop.
can't. Yeah,
Yeah, no, like you said, whole other essay. And
that's another essay.
whole other essay for sure. But I wanted to switch gears a little and ask if you had a personal goal, and do you have a professional goal as we're entering 2025?
So I am not really like a new year, new me person. I always joke about that I don't really declare my goals publicly. I will answer the question, but
Thank
in
you. Thank you.
general, I'm not one of the like new year, new me. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this, I'm gonna do that, because it's like, no, actually, you're not gonna do that. But um, I have to be honest with you. I have not, because we are, I guess, in an election year, or we were in
Hmm.
an election year. I did not plan for 2025 as sort of um, meticulously as I typically would.
Hmm.
I operate, I always have a 1 year plan, a 5 year plan, 10 year plan. But this year, I was just like, let's just see how 2024 pans out,
Yeah.
and like let's see what the vibes are after the election, and the vibes are not great. So I don't know what I don't know what 2025 is gonna hold for me. I just know that I'm gonna continue to strive to be the best version of Kadeem that I can be, on a personal level and a professional level.
Hmm.
So I guess um one personal goal would be to really try and prioritize myself. For the last couple of years, I've really been running at like hyperspeed,
Mm.
focus on business, focus on my promoting my book, focus on producing collections, and really just trying to make sure that I've just been working and I have not really taken enough time for myself, which my family and very close friends have recently pointed out to me.
Mm.
I do love them and appreciate them, being like, hey, it appears that you're not really taking care of yourself and you're just working, working, working. And we want you to make sure that you're giving yourself grace. And so that's something that I want to work on next year. It's not a this year thing. I still have so much work to do, but just trying to like get back into like prioritizing Kadeem, like the person.
Mhm.
And then professionally, it would be I don't have any major goals that come to mind other than that I want to just continue to stay booked. I
Mhm.
want to continue to show collections. I want to continue to increase my profile, and I'd like to transition not transition. I'm really looking for opportunities to um get into some more on camera work. I used
Mhm.
to work as a commercial model and actor, and so I would like to now try and get back onto TV as a fashion expert or a fashion expert or like a style commentator.
Mhm.
That's just something that I've always wanted to do, and so it's just something that I want to add on to my sort of already full plate. But that's what I would say. I would just say that I just want to continue to be a better version of myself. That's really what my goal is. Anytime, any day that I wake up, or any day, every day when I wake up, every day, any day. The few days that I don't wake up, maybe. No, I'm kidding. Every day that I wake up, I, have a little mantra that I say to myself, but it's just several mantras that I say to myself. But one is that I want to make sure that I'm a better version of myself today than I was yesterday.
Oh, yeah. No, gotta take it day by day. And I love
Yeah,
your train of thought. Very healthy mindset for sure.
yeah,
And a lot of our listeners at Advisor are emerging or already in the industry, Black creatives, Black fashion designers. And so do you have any advice that you would give to Black designers?
yeah. I would say if they are not in the industry yet, or if they're like truly more emerging, or say like a student or something like that, one piece of advice that I wish I had received when I was younger and before I came into the industry was that all that glitters is not gold.
Hmm.
In fact, most things that glitter are not gold, and the industry. It really is a labor of love. Like you have to love it. At least that's been my experience. That the reason I've been able to sustain in the industry is because I love what I do. I love fashion. I love trying to be better at my talent. I love trying to improve my craft. But if you don't have those things to propel you forward, it will be a crash and burn situation.
Hmm.
And I just distinctly remember when I first got right one of my first internships, actually my first fashion internship in New York. I had started at Parsons and then was interning at a big American designer. And the like lobby was really fabulous. And it was like literally I walked in and there was like a couple supermodels in the library because,
Hmm.
or not the library, in the lobby because it was during Fashion Week casting.
Hmm.
And it was just so fabulous. Everyone was dressed gorgeously. It was like a scene out of Devil Wears Prada. And then like they were like, okay, well, anyways, your intern cubicle is back here. And I
Ugh.
was like, I worked all my life to sit in a cubicle. Are you kidding me?
Mm-mm.
Like I just couldn't believe, like I was like, wait a minute, what? Like how silly of me to even think that. Like I just don't know what I thought the industry or the building or my desk was going to look like, but it was not what it ended up being. And
Mhm.
so that's what I mean about all that glitters and gold. Like there will be those glamorous moments, and there will be the photo ops, there will be you will be around models, there'll be great parties, but there's also blood, sweat, and tears that you have to put in day in and day out to
Mm.
become better and to rise to the top. Like the ride up is not easy, and it's not easy for anyone, but it is 10 times harder for a Black and or queer creative. Like being
Mm.
a Black creative is a completely different challenge. And the competition, you're competing for you're competing for a seat that doesn't exist. And so you have to sometimes create, you're competing with other Black creatives or other um, non-white creatives, or actually just you're just competing with a bunch of really, really talented people who all want the same thing. And
Mm.
it just boils down to who wants it more. And you can take that however you want, but it's just like, I think that when you make the decision that you're going to work in this industry, just understand that it's extremely cutthroat and only the cream rises to the top. And even when you are the best, you still might not make it to the top, especially if you're Black and or queer, because it's not an industry necessarily built for us to succeed. But that does not mean that it's impossible to succeed. It means that you just have to work twice as hard for half as much, and anybody who's Black has heard that a million times. So that's what I would say. Just remember that this industry, you have to kind of work four times harder. You just got to really make sure that you're top of your game at all times. And that another piece of advice, I guess I would say, is don't burn bridges.
Mm.
That's just a general life advice. But in the industry, it's a very small industry, especially if you live in a big city or in a metropolitan city with a big fashion industry. Everybody knows everybody. I recently had a situation where I might have pissed off one person, and then another person called me to tell me that said person was
Oh.
pissed off. And it was like, okay, well, I'm not sure why she couldn't tell me herself, but no worries. And that's happened numerous times. It's not any specific situation. It's just like um, everybody that I know could tell you that same story.
Mm.
That it's a small industry, and you want to just make sure that you treat everybody with respect and kindness to a certain degree.
Mm.
You still have to be able to you have to be strong, and you can't get run over by people, but you also have to treat people with respect. And I always say, like in life, that you should lead with compassion because you never know what someone's going through.
Mm.
And that's a very, very difficult lesson that that I honestly, it's taken me up until now to learn. Like, it's taken me many, many moments, many, many sort of failed approaches to finally learn that if you just lead with compassion and gratitude, that's actually what will propel you forward, not any of the other methods.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, well, I appreciate like your realness in this and,
Mhm.
not sugarcoating it too
Oh no,
much,
I never do
right? Yeah,
that.
no, like, yeah, no, I mean, I really appreciate that, like, just that realness, you know? And
Yeah.
and we were talking about this a little bit, but of course, another opportunity for you to plug in any future projects and things that you're working on.
Yeah, for sure. So the thing that's right on the horizon is I'm really excited that I am working with the Kennedy Center right now on an event on a project, and the event will be November 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Justice Forum at the Kennedy Center. And I'm doing a project called Back to Black, and it's a tribute to the iconic sartorial contributions of Black women at the Kennedy Center Honors. And we can share like the link to that with your listeners. But it's been like a year's worth of work and something that's kind of been a long time coming, something I really wanted to do. And I am just so happy that the stars kind of aligned and I was able to meet the right people and assemble the right team and have, be supported by friends and family to get this project going and get to really show off my couture design chops, and also talk about like my interest in like fashion history and talk about the significance that Black women have played in the arts and in fashion and kind of shine a spotlight on how they're so often overlooked, even when they have reached the peak of their career. Black women are so often overlooked, and I want to really dive into why that is, but then also talk about what they were wearing, and I want to explain why they wore it. And then I also want to reimagine the looks. So that's the thing that's coming up the soonest. And I guess I don't have any like specific events coming up in 2025, but now that I know what the results of the election are, I will start planning for 2025 and I'll let you know immediately. But I really just like could not think past election day. Sorry. I was like, no, I need to see if like we're gonna have a country. And we'll see. So yeah, no, I always have something going on. I'm always promoting my book. I'm, often on podcasts, often doing a public speaking gig here or there. Um, I am looking forward to speaking at more universities and schools. And then also, we'll be showing a collection at New York Fashion Week in February. Or let's just say at this point, I'll be showing a collection in Fashion Week.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where,
Where?
because we'll see if I'm still in New York. But yeah, no. And then, of course, Fashion Week again in September. And so I would just say, just keep a lookout. There's always something going on.
Yes, no, absolutely. And speaking of, my final question, where can our listeners connect with you online? Do you have any social media handles or other platforms that you're on?
Yes, absolutely. So, again, thank you again. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so happy to connect with the Be Advised podcast audience, and so happy that we were able to connect. You can find me on Instagram at K_ALPHANSO, and then you can also find my book, which is called Threading the Needle, A Fashion Designer's Guide to Successfully Launching Your First Collection, on Amazon as an ebook, paperback, and audio, and as a paperback anywhere books are sold online. And then if you type in my name, Kadeem Alphanso Fyffe, you can have access to any of my other collections. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And in general, that's where you can find me. I have a very unique name. I'm the only one. And so just type in my name and you can find me anywhere. And I'm super excited to connect with your listeners.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all, Be Advised listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to this conversation with Kadeem. It was great chatting with you. I truly can't wait to see the brilliant work that you're putting out in the near future, should we all make it to the future. I mean, uh,
In the event that we make it to the future is so real.
yeah, in the event that we make it, but you are definitely a light for what
Thank
can be
you.
seen as a dark, kind of tumultuous future.
Yeah.
You are definitely shining a light for us. So thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for your time. And you can check out our interview, our written interview with Kadeem on our website. And be sure to check out Advisor on all of our social media platforms. Be sure to do that. Thank you all so much for listening.